This is the Anna Gale Lines podcast, where we equip you with the tools and insights to take charge of your life and thrive. And here is your host, life coach and author, Anna Gale Lines.
Hello, and welcome back to the Anna Gale Lines podcast. I'm Anna Gale Lines, and today we have a compelling topic to explore. One many of us have encountered, but may not openly discuss: imposter syndrome. It's that nagging feeling of self-doubt and fear of being exposed as a fraud, even when you've achieved great success. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the world of imposter syndrome. We'll uncover what it is, why it happens, and more importantly, how to overcome it. You are not alone. Many high achievers, including celebrities, entrepreneurs, and even your colleagues, have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. Whether you're a student, a professional, or someone just trying to navigate life's challenges, this video is for you. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future episodes on personal development, mental well-being, and taking charge of your life. And if you find this video helpful, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. Now, let's begin our journey to conquer imposter syndrome and unlock your true potential. So grab your favorite beverage, find a comfy seat, and let's get started. First things first, what is imposter syndrome and why does it affect so many of us? Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their own accomplishments, skills, or talents and has a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud or someone who doesn't deserve their success. Has that ever happened to you? I know it has me. I've been in a management position and wondered how I got there, and at some point they were going to recognize me as a fraud, and one of my managers saw that in me and started picking on everything I did. Not only did she pick on what I did, but she gaslighted me and she manipulated me and she played on that weakness, which is what we all fear when we're in a position that we don't think we deserve. But what causes imposter syndrome? First of all, perfectionism. So, our own standards, our own perfectionism causes us to feel like imposters. Let's say you've got parents who are, doctors, they're well-known surgeons, or they're celebrities, or, their name is out there and people know them for their talents and gifts. And if you're not like that, or you just haven't found that place where you're supposed to be in this world, then you're going to feel like an imposter. You're going to feel like you can never be good enough and you can never meet the standards that your parents have set or that you have set because you think you need to be like them, but in reality, all they want for you is to find your own niche. And early experiences in childhood could also cause us to feel like imposters. So if we're consistently being praised for our achievements and our efforts, and we experience parents who have high levels of expectation for us, such as we have to always get A's, we're not allowed to get B's, we're not allowed to get C's, no matter how hard the class is, we have to maintain a 4.0 average, then we're going to feel like failures. We're going to feel like imposters because we're not meeting those standards. And that maybe they don't have academic standards for us. Maybe it's we need to be a star athlete, or we need to, be the star on the track team, or, we need to be the best musician or artist. When we're constantly being held to a standard when we're in childhood, we're going to take on those standards for ourselves, and then we're going to fail. No doubt about it. you are going to fail. And failure is part of life. Failure teaches us what it is that we need to do differently. And if we fail at something that our parents expected us to be good at, maybe that's because that is not our talents and gifts. Maybe our talents and gifts lie elsewhere, and we need to go find where our strengths are. And then it could be that we have family and cultural influences. Like, this is the way it's always been in our family. We are all lawyers, so you have to be a lawyer. Or this is how it is in our family. The women always stay home and the men always go to work. And maybe that just doesn't fit for you. Maybe, you've been single all this time and your parents keep harping on you to get married. You are in corporate America and you're, a lawyer with the corner office, and your parents are still harping on when you're going to get married and have children, because that's what good women do. But you have to do what is right for you. You have to do what you were placed on this earth to do, and not what other people want you to do, because you will always fail when you're trying to meet other people's expectations. And you will always fail when you put high expectations on yourself instead of looking for your strengths and going in that direction and playing on your strengths and going and finding your place in this world. You are always going to fail if you are doing something for somebody else that somebody else expects you to do. And then it's because we are high achievers. It's people like who are highly intelligent and highly talented, and they're high achievers, and they've always been high achievers, but then they get into the real world because they were high achievers in their academics, but it's not translating always into the real world. And so when they get into a corporate job, they find out that they're the low person on the totem pole and people are actually better than them. It's also because, people have been there longer and they know the environment longer. But if we hold ourselves to these high standards and expect ourselves to be good at everything and never to fail, then we are always going to feel like imposters. And then there's a fear of failure. You are always going to have a day one. When you try something new, you're always going to have a day one. You're not going to be good at it at first. And that does not mean that you do not have a talent for it. It just means that you need to practice and you need to master that skill. We are always going to have a day one, whether it's being a parent, whether it is, going to a new job and learning a new system, whether it's being an artist or a musician. We will always have a day one. And our talents will not always be seen at first. We won't always see our talents at first. And let's say you're a musician and you're learning to play guitar or you're learning to play the piano. Maybe your skill is not actually the piano or the guitar. Maybe it's actually writing songs. Something that has to do with it, but not the actual skill. And you have to be able to, learn the piano or learn the guitar in order to be able to improvise. And then overachievement. We've achieved success at an early age, and now everything else we do seems to fail in comparison. It's like those people who were the star athlete on the football team, and all of their accomplishments after that are compared to that significant thing that they did in their lives. But the thing is that we need to keep trying and keep doing and doing new things to find more achievements that we can accomplish. We can't just rest on our laurels and what happened in the past. So how do we overcome imposter syndrome? Overcoming imposter syndrome is possible with self-awareness and proactive strategies. So let's go over some of them. First, you're going to want to acknowledge your feelings. The first step to recognizing and accepting that you are experiencing imposter syndrome is understanding that it's a common phenomenon and many people, many individuals have faced it at some point. In fact, if you care about what you're doing, more than not, you will feel imposter syndrome. You'll feel like a fraud, like you don't know everything, especially when you get into a position of authority and you can't answer a question or something goes wrong, like one of your team members does something that is against the rules and management is blaming it on you. How come you didn't control the situation? And then you feel like a fraud. How did I get in this position and why am I in this position? I obviously don't have a talent for it. And that's not necessarily true because we can't control other people. Corporate America for the most part, likes to think that we can control the people on our team and what they do. But we can't. We can't control other people. We can only control what we do and how we feel. So we have to acknowledge that we are feeling like frauds, that we have this imposter syndrome. And then we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it with our therapist, trusted friends, family members, colleagues. Make sure that you're talking to trusted people, people that you trust. Because if you don't, you can get those people who will go behind your back and start gossiping and talking about you. They will go to management and say you're a fraud. They will start rumors and they will paint you out to be in a bad light. But you could also go to support groups. Support groups for people with imposter syndrome. You can also listen to podcasts on imposter syndrome so that you know that you're not alone. And then we need to set realistic goals. Instead of aiming for perfection, we need to set achievable, realistic goals. We need to break down the larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps in order to stop feeling overwhelmed. We need to go after our goals, yes, but we need to break that big goal down into manageable steps. I want to be a author, okay? I want to be a successful author. Successful author doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be on the bestsellers list, but it does mean that I will find my groove, my tribe, and I will sell to them. So what do I have to do in order to become a successful author? Well, I have to write a book. And after I write that book, I have to be able to distribute it to my audience. Well, first of all, I need to know who my audience is. So I need to write the book. I need to find out who my target audience is. I have to learn about marketing and what platforms to put my books on. I need to learn, what makes a bestseller and what doesn't. And these are all steps achievable steps that I could take that will get me to that goal. So once we achieve one step, like writing the book, and writing the book has several steps in it. Okay, so we want to outline the book. What is the book about? We want to actually write the book. We need to edit the book. We need to get a book cover, that kind of thing. And once we do one step, and then 2 steps, and then 3 steps, we're further along than we were if we didn't do anything, if we didn't take any steps towards the goal. And once you take one step, you start gaining momentum, and you want to do more and more and more until you get to that goal. And then we need to track our achievements. So we need to keep a record of our accomplishments and our successes. This can serve as a reminder of our abilities and provide a tangible way to overcome self-doubt. So you might want to think about every day writing down 5 things that you accomplished for that day. So that could be, I wrote all of my team's reviews. I wrote 500 words on my novel. I took a guitar lesson. I got up and went to work. I de-escalated a call at work. Whatever you did that day that was a victory for you, we need to write these down. We need to keep a log of all the good things we do every day. We need to look at those when we're feeling self-doubt. We need to look at that log and we need to see all the things that we have accomplished. We're not just sitting here being lazy and not doing anything. We have accomplished things, and we need to look at that log and rehearse those victories, because that's going to keep us from going into self-doubt. And then we need to challenge our thinking, our negative thinking, because a lot of times we hear that inner critic. You'll be writing on your novel and your inner critic will go, "That's not good." You'll be, playing a song. "Oh, you messed up." And then, "Oh, you didn't handle that conversation with your colleague very well." All these these negative thoughts will come into your thinking, and you will rehearse everything that went on in a day. Before you go to sleep, you'll think about everything you did wrong in that day. The problem with that is that we need to challenge those negative thoughts. We need to focus on what we are doing right instead of what we are doing wrong. Your inner critic says that the novel you're writing, the passage you just wrote, wasn't any good. Well, I can edit that at the end. Let's just get the first draft down, and I can edit that at the end if it's still a problem. That conversation with the colleague, I did the best I could at the time, and I'll do better in the future. You just figure out what you're going to learn from that and what you're going to do about it, and then don't dwell on those negative thoughts. You're going to challenge those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. When you're writing and you write down a scene that your inner critic doesn't like, and it will tell you how bad of a writer you are and that nobody's ever going to read your writing, you counter that with, "I am a good writer. I have written all these novels. I have people who are listening to the podcast with my novels on them. I have sold novels, so obviously somebody likes them." You challenge your negative thinking with facts, positive facts about what you have accomplished. And then you're going to want to have self-compassion. You're going to want to not beat up on yourself. You're going to figure out what you want to learn from that situation and how you're going to do it differently, but you are not going to dwell on what is wrong with you. You're going to dwell on what is right with you. And then you're going to accept constructive feedback. When people give you feedback about things that are happening, like you forgot to log this on that spreadsheet. You have a spelling error right here. Maybe if you did this instead of that, you would have better success. We need to accept what is constructive criticism, feedback, and look at it and see where we can apply that, if we can apply it at all. Because sometimes people give you feedback that is not constructive and is actually meant to hurt you. And you have to learn what the difference is. And then we need to stop comparing ourselves to others. Because when we compare ourselves to others, we are always going to set ourselves up for failure. So instead of looking at your colleague and all the successes she's had, like your fellow managers, you need to think about all the successes you've had. You're not her. You don't lead the same way she does. She has a different leadership style than you do. That doesn't make her any better than you. That doesn't make you inferior to her. So you need to play to your strengths, and you have to master your weaknesses. But we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people. I can't compare myself as a writer to J.K. Rowling. I can't compare myself to Stephen King. I can't compare myself to, other people in the science fiction industry. I have my own unique voice and my own unique talents. And I am who I am, and I am not them. And we need to visualize success instead of failure. When we are going through a tough time with self-doubt, we need to imagine ourselves as successes. We need to build confidence in our abilities. And we need to create a mental image of ourselves achieving our goals. Because what we see inside is what we are going to achieve. If we can believe it and we can see it, we can achieve it. But many times we don't see ourselves as successful. We see ourselves as failing, and we see ourselves as failures. And just because you have failed once or twice or 1,000 times does not make you a failure. What makes you a failure is when you don't learn from those failures. You have to learn from your failures and figure out what you're going to do next time, what you're going to learn from it. And if you use your failures and your mistakes as stepping stones to success, then you're better off than you were. But we have to visualize ourselves as successes. We can't dwell on what is wrong with us. We need to take risks to step out of our comfort zone and embrace new challenges. And the reason we need to do this is because a lot of times when we feel imposter syndrome, it's because we're not in the place that we're supposed to be. We're not in that place of authority that we're supposed to be. We haven't actually found our tribe. We haven't found our skills and our talents. We haven't figured out what we are supposed to do with our lives. And until we do, we will always feel like failures. We'll keep feeling like we are a square peg in a round hole. We are trying to fit ourselves into a mold that is not made for us. So thank you for joining us today on this important journey to understand and overcome imposter syndrome. We hope this video has been enlightening and you're now equipped with knowledge and the tools to combat those feelings of self-doubt. We've discussed the causes of imposter syndrome and offered practical strategies for you to implement in your life. Remember, you're not alone in this, and your experiences are valid. Now it's time to take action. Embrace your achievements. Accept compliments graciously and continue to challenge negative self-talk. You have the potential to achieve incredible things, and imposter syndrome should never hold you back. If you found value in this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your family and friends and colleagues who might benefit from this information. And of course, stay tuned for more empowering content here on the Anna Gale Lines podcast. Next week, we'll be exploring entrepreneurship and working for yourself, even if you're working a 9-to-5. Remember, you are capable, you are deserving, and you can overcome imposter syndrome. Believe in yourself and watch your potential soar. You've got this.
You have been listening to the Anna Gale Lines podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Anna Gale, you can go to AnnaGaleLines.com. It's AnnaGaleLynes.com. And there you can download 2 free chapters of her book Unshakable Purpose. And you can also download her latest science fiction mystery novel called The Last Chance Station for free. You can also buy her fiction and nonfiction books on the website, Amazon, BN.com, Lulu, and many other online outlets. Sign up for the newsletter to keep updated as to what's going on in the world of the Anna Gale Lines podcast and Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast, her fiction podcast where you can hear installments of her novels. To follow her on social media, Lady Anna Gale on TikTok, Anna Gale Lines on Twitter, and Anna Gale Lines Artist on Instagram. Join our Facebook page at facebook.com/author Anna Gale. Thank you for listening and thank you for being you.